to another episode of An Intimate Conversation with Women of Color. I am your host, Deneen L. Garrett, and this is the first episode of 2022. So happy New Year to everyone, and especially to today's guest, Jocquice J. Spikes. Jay is a career and business coach dedicated to empowering corporate and business women who feel stuck, which at some point, we've probably all been there. And if we haven't, at some point, we will be there, and burned out in their careers to change their hats, to take back control, excel, and generate real opportunities. Jay, tell us more about you.
All right. Well, first of all, let me just say thank you for having me. This is really a great opportunity. I love what you're doing. And I just want to say thank you for having me as a guest. This is really cool. So in addition to that, I want to say personally, I'm a wife. I'm a stepmom. I like to call it bonus mom.
Yes.
To 4. And then I am a nana to 6. I have 6 grandbabies that I get to play with. So on top of that, I have been in corporate America for, oh my goodness, it's going on 25 years this year. And then founder of Wise Hat Consulting. And we're going to talk about that. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Jay mentioned that in corporate America, where she's been for 25 years, and that's how we know each other. We actually both, our corporate careers are at the same company. So I want to definitely shout that out. And also mention, so some of you are listening on your favorite podcast platform or watching on YouTube. So either way, thank you so much. Again, Happy New Year. I definitely want to shout out my international audience. I so appreciate you. And I get so excited when I see a new country represented. So thank you to everybody that's out there. So Jay, over 2 seasons of An Intimate Conversation with Women of Color, we've clearly established the importance for Black women to have a platform to use their voices. So feel free to weigh in, add in anything that you would like regarding that. But otherwise, as you mentioned, let's just jump right into what HAT is, what prompted you to launch it, and beyond HAT, how else are you using your voice for Black women?
Okay, so the name of my company is Wise Hat Consulting, and basically it came from taking wisdom and applying it to your hat. And your hat is your habits, associations, and thoughts. And when you think about it, whether it's your career, whether it's your life, everything, in my opinion, comes down to those 3 things: your habits, associations, and thoughts. And then when you take it further, as women, we wear so many hats, right? Yeah. We're the mother. We're, in some cases, I'll say, quote unquote, father too in the homes, right? We are the cleaner. We're, the coworker, the sister, the mother, the daughter, you name it. We have all these hats that we wear, and we're burned out, not just at work. We're burned out in our personal lives. We have the whole, what they're calling, the great resignation, whatever they're calling it. Is it, did I get it right? Resignation?
Yeah, great resignation.
Going on, right? And so women are leaving the workplace in droves, and partly because we're burned out. And it's my personal belief that if you change your hat, literally your habits, associations, and thoughts, you can make some fundamental changes in your career specifically so that you won't be burned out. And so Wise Hat came from my 25 years of, not the whole time, right, but my experience of really being frustrated and burned out in my career and wanting to just leave, wanting to quit several times. And it wasn't until I addressed my hat and changed my hat that I was able to really make some changes, see what I wanted to happen for my career actually started happening. Yeah. I stopped feeling burned out, right? And so it became a mission of mine to share it with everybody. So I started doing it corporately, right? If you directly reported to me, and specifically men and women, but the women on my team struggled a lot more than the men. And so it became my mission. I'm going to teach you how to do this, because there's no need in you being burnt out, no need in you being frustrated. You just need to change your hat. And so really that's kind of how it was born in 2018, officially. And I've been on a mission ever since. I don't want to see another woman, particularly a woman of color, to suffer in the way that I did. Because, going back 25 years, it was a different world than where we
Yeah.
are right now, I went through some stuff, right? And so thankfully I was able to, somebody pulled me to the side, another woman of color pulled
That's
me
awesome.
to the side and started mentoring me.
And let me,
Like,
before you go on, we need to do
yeah,
more of that. Okay. Women
yes,
of color, women, pull somebody to the side, help out. If you see something, look, if you see something, say something, but we have to normalize looking out for one another. Hooking a sister
absolutely.
up. Hasu.
That's right. Yes, absolutely. Because this is the problem, and this is what I focus on a lot. And people tend to describe me as disruptive when it comes to the things that I talk about with changing your hat, because nobody wants to tell us the truth. And I
Right.
like to call it the beautiful truth, not the ugly truth, because the truth will make you free, right? That's so the scripture says. So for me, if we don't get the truth, how can we be effective? And so we can't be afraid to pull somebody to the side and say, okay, listen, the way you're presenting yourself, your character and your reputation isn't in alignment. You're not coachable. You're not easy to do business with. Yes, everybody's smiling, but girl, do you know what they're saying when you leave the room?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
all of those things, right? That people are just afraid. We just smile and nod. And then when
Yeah.
they leave, we roll our eyes. And that's not appropriate. We need to hold ourselves accountable for that. And this wise head is my way of doing that, to say, okay, look, if you feel stuck, if you feel burned, let's not take our finger and do this and point at the leadership, the company, the environment, the culture. Let's first make sure that what we're doing, our habits, associations, and thoughts, are in alignment to what we say we want for
Mhm.
our career.
Yes.
And then we'll deal with the other stuff. But you got to position yourself better first off and deal with you. And I'm just doing exactly what happened with me. So that's in a nutshell how
Yeah.
Wise Hat came about.
That is so important, and conversation that I had actually this week, I think probably even yesterday. I have it often. It goes back to, you as an individual, what is it that you want, and making sure that you're taking those steps to get there, and stop waiting and expecting others to hand things to you or make changes for you. You got to get clear with yourself. And it's funny because while you were talking, I also thought about this week's episode of Atlanta Housewives. I don't know if you watch, but right now they're doing Portia's Family Matters. And so Portia's sister Lauren was seeing her, Portia was pointing finger at everybody else, but Lauren kept going back to, no, what are you going to do? What changes are you going to do? Right? Because you really only have control of yourself and not anybody else. So everything that you said is spot on. And I do want to ask though, so you mentioned, like, with your direct reports, the men for the most part, they were good.
Mhm.
And it was more so the women. So why do you think that is? Because we hear a lot about, like the men, if they want a job, they go for it. With us, oh no, I got to make sure that I have 50 years experience in each of those competencies
Mhm.
or things that they're looking for. But the man,
Yeah.
no.
And you know what? It's so interesting. It's something in us. And I think for each of us, it might be different, but there's a common denominator along the way. For me, it was how I was raised. My parents were very traditional. I'm going to call them old school, and children were seen and not heard. And so I carried that through my adulthood. So when I came into corporate America, it was like, sit down, shut up, put your head down, do your job, right? Do your work. Don't buck the system. Don't say anything. Don't talk about your accomplishments. Just do the work, and they'll reward you. They'll see. And that was the furthest thing from the truth, right? And so everybody has a source. And so I challenge people or women to figure out where's that, kind of go backwards and see where that source came from, because we struggle a lot just speaking up for ourselves. But yet we're the ones behind the scenes probably doing the job of 3 or 4
Oh my God.
different people, right? And not wanting to take the credit for it, afraid to take the credit for it. And so, but I'll tell you, with the years of the direct reports of women that I had, they were saying, Jay, if I take credit for this, I'm bragging. I feel like I'm bragging. I feel like I'm, saying I'm all that in a bag of chips. And I would say to them, okay, listen, is what you accomplished, Is it a fact? Did you do it? And they
Yeah.
would say, yes. All right, then you're not bragging. You would be bragging if you were kind of you have those people sometimes you run into at a party or something like that, and they just completely embellish the story. And instead of it being, 10 people that they interacted with, it was 25 or whatever, right? They kind of put too much on it. We're not talking about that.
No.
We're talking about the actual facts, right? And so get over you thinking you're bragging. You're not bragging. You're not coming off proud or haughty or as if you walk on water. No one thinks you do that, but tell me what you did, because if you don't tell me what you did, I don't know all of it.
Right.
There's no way I'm going to know everything. And if you think, the image that I always come up with is the ostrich, right? So imagine that's a big bird, right? The ostrich is a huge bird. And then imagine it with its head in the sand. So I see you, but I have no idea what you're doing here. I have no idea what you're doing because you're just like this, thinking that, okay, because I see you, she must be working really hard. I have no idea what she's doing, but she must be working really hard. So, and it just doesn't work that way. So I think there's some common threads for us as women, society-wise as well, right? How society over historical times, our history as women, where our voices were muffled. And so we have all these things that we struggle with. People talk about imposter syndrome. I like to break it down to the least common denominator. It's fear. It really is fear. Then you have to ask yourself, what are you afraid of? Yeah. Because if these things that you did are actual facts, then why are you afraid to state the facts? Are you afraid somebody's going to come to you and say, fraud, you're lying? Well, if you actually did them, right? How are you a fraud? So I actually help women tackle that, right? But it is a really interesting phenomenon that we go through. And like I said, for everybody, it's different, but there's some common denominators that we have. And we just need to learn how to get over that. You're not bragging, you're stating facts. Right. And that's it, that's all. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. And that's, we're in that season of storytelling. And, like listening to you and what you started off with, people they still think that's the way to get it done, to put your head down, do great work, and you're going to get tapped. And that's not the case anymore. It used to be. I believe that there definitely was a time when you were rewarded. I don't, how things, why they were so different, but people kind of they saw what you were doing and like, oh, let's reward this particular person, but not anymore, because it's too many things competing for our attention. It's probably what it is a bunch of stuff that's happening. You have social media, you have this, you have that, you have so many things going on, to whereas they're not waking up thinking about you. And I remember being at an event, and I think it might have been, we were talking about Women of Color STEM earlier. I believe it was a Women of Color STEM event, and it was a woman VP with IBM, and she made the comment that her leadership did not wake up thinking about her. So she had to own her career. She had to, get clear about what she wanted and make the moves to make it happen for herself. And so that's something for, those our audience that are listening or watching to know, is that your leader they don't have you in their mind.
No, they don't.
They don't wake up thinking about you. They have their life, their family, whatever they have going on. So if you want something, you have to articulate it and tell your story like you're saying. So, so thinking of talking about your story and thinking about those women who haven't tapped into their power and their voices, what 3 actions will help them own both?
So really, and I'm going to sound repetitive, but I'm telling you, it is my motto. It is my process, right? It has worked for me over these 25 years. You need to change your hat. And the way you do that, you have to evaluate, okay, what habits, what associations, and what thoughts do I have associated with my career? Are they serving me? Or are they not? And it's interesting. So I literally just finished writing a book about it. It's going to come out any day now. It's called The Ambitious Woman: How to Self-Promote in the Workplace Without Feeling Like You're Bragging. And ambitious is humble and ambitious put together, right? So we tackle the fact that you can be well, the real definition of humble, and it's not putting your head down or not ever saying anything. So we talk about that, but you have to look at in the book. The reason why I mentioned this is because there's a Wise Hat Detox guide in that book. And so we tackle, how do you change your hat? You need to assess the habits that you have today and whether or not they're serving your career, and then list them out. And if they're this long laundry list, don't overwhelm yourself with it. Take the top 3 things that you know aren't serving your career right now. Let's say you show up to meetings late. Let's say you multitask all the time, which is a big deal. It's an issue, right? Let's say, you're working 12, 14, 15 hours a day thinking that's the thing, and it's not. So you address each area, and then you work on, okay, these are the top 3 things. Now, what's the opposite of that, right? What's going to get me success? If you feel like I can't speak up, well, now you need to learn how to articulate your value, and then articulate what it is that you want for your career. So what is that? A conversation? What are your associations? I go back to that same visual. Is your head down in the sand and you're not networking or speaking with anybody? Right. You're not partnering or teaming up with anybody. You're not being mentored by anybody, right? So looking at your associations, and then your thoughts. My goodness, that's where I struggled with the most. It was my thoughts. Like, what do you think about yourself, your capabilities, and your career? Are you daydreaming, thinking, hey, I could be that, I could do that job? You see other people who you deem less talented, if you will, doing a job that you know that you could do effectively, right? But then when it comes time to execute, you won't do it. So it's your thought life that's getting in the way. And I'll say this one last thing about thoughts. I have this cute little acronym called ANTS, automatic negative thoughts. And that's exactly how they are. They come fast and furious. You think about an ant, you see one coming, right? He's a scout and he's just looking. And when he finds food, when he finds a place of opportunity, he signals for the rest of them, and then they just come flooding in. Yeah. And that's the same thing we have with our own thoughts, right? And before you know it, we have all these thoughts running through our minds. And it's been chemically proven that negative thoughts make you tired. That's a known fact, right? So just addressing those 3 areas, taking a look at, and this is a perfect time, it's the beginning of the year, do a self-assessment. Look at your habits, your associations, your thoughts. Identify the top 3 in each area that aren't serving your career. And what can you implement that's the opposite of that? And then go and execute.
Yeah. And get some raid or have the orchid man coming for those ants.
Yes. The ants. Right.
Okay, so pivoting, let's talk about dreams deferred. And so for the audience, Dreams Deferred was a book that my sister had written, and my sister passed last year. And so this is my way of honoring her, mentioning her book. But the conversation isn't about her book, it's about Dreams Deferred. So I want to talk about that, as well as dream lifestyle. So I recently saw somebody post on social media that, it's not about their dream job, it's a dream lifestyle. So I'm like, okay. All right, well, let me start focusing on that as well. So please share any experience with both or either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. So the first thing I think of when I hear dreams deferred is daydreaming. I mentioned daydreaming, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times what happens is we spend all the time daydreaming. We have of what our dream is, right? So the dream job, the dream house, the dream marriage, the dream kids, the dream furniture, you name it, dream hair, dream clothes, dream shoes. We spend all our time daydreaming. But what daily activity are we doing to put ourselves in position for those dream things? Yeah. So really it's about taking action. Mm-hmm. I daydreamed for a long time about leaving. I was in the networking side of the house. I wanted to go to HR. Mm-hmm. When I tell you I daydreamed about that for probably a good year because I was afraid to say something to my leadership, thinking that they were going to look at me and go, oh, you want to leave and go to that side of the business? Like, let's get rid of her. That's so silly, but that was my thought, right? So back to those negative thoughts. Yeah. But I dreamed about that for a whole year. And it wasn't until I took action. I set up a meeting with my director at the time. Yeah. And I just told her, I'm like, this is what I want. She's like, oh my God, okay. Well, let me introduce you to so and so and so and so and so and
Right.
so. And then I formed this beautiful networking community of people. And the next time an opportunity came up, I was able to transition in. And so back to the original point, what are we doing? Have
Mm.
all these dreams. Okay, write them out. That's great, right? That's a step. But what action are you taking to align yourself with those dreams that you have? So really it's stop daydreaming and start doing.
And you know what? And similar to, for those that are spiritual and whatnot, faith without works is dead, right? We
That's
can't
right.
just dream. We can't just say, oh, this is what I want, and then keep it moving and not do anything towards it. So yeah.
That's right. Gotta execute.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. And so January is National Mentoring Month. So share your experiences or your successes around mentoring. And you talked about how you mentor your direct reports, but let's talk more about that.
I have my mentors to thank for where I am today. I am so grateful for them. Mentorship is everything. It is everything. And I think as women of color in particular, we have to take more responsibility. And we don't need to be at a certain level in management to mentor somebody. So again, that's back to that, the wrong thoughts. If you have, I don't care, a year's more work experience, and it isn't about the time.
Right.
It is about the experience, right? So if you've been somewhere and you see this person coming up trying to go where you are or where you've been, you need to help them and pull her to the side. But mentorship is everything. It has been invaluable to me. I've had, I can count just, it's three main people that just come in the front of my mind right now, who pulled me to the side, groomed me, made me do the things I didn't want to do, but they were good for me, right? That I still call, they're not even with our company anymore. I call them to this day and I'll say, hey, this is going on. What do you think? And they'll give me advice. But it is establishing for mentorships, establishing a network of people. I call them my board of directors. We hear this sometimes too, right? You gotta have it. So mentorship is everything. If you don't have a mentor right now, don't be afraid to ask for one. Now, be cognizant of who you select, right? So I'm a fruit inspector, back to the scripture, right? Inspect their fruit. So never take advice from someone you're not willing to trade places with. I say that all the time. So if you're looking for a mentor, ask yourself, would I trade places with that person? And so if the answer is yes, they might be a good fit. And go about just asking them, hey, I am, whatever your situation is, I'm looking to do A, B, and C in my career. Do you mind mentoring me? And usually they'll say yes. I haven't had a person tell me no yet, right? And make it be a diverse group of people. So that's the other thing too. Male, female, older, younger, different sectors of whatever your work environment is. That's important as well. But I'm telling you, I probably would have been fired within the first 3 or 4 years, if not for a mentor, honestly, right? So it's the right counsel that we all need in order to succeed at anything. You cannot do it by yourself. You just can't. So I'm big on mentorship. I really see my company as a huge mentorship kind of thing, right? Platform for women. And so it is really an important thing. It's like the foundation. If you don't have a mentor, you're navigating, this is a little funny thing, like I say this, like a black cat in a dark room, right?
Can't see.
And you're blind. You can't see. You cannot see anything. You're in this room, there's no lights on, and there's a black cat in there. You cannot see anything. So mentorship is so important. So I hope I didn't go too off the rails with the black cat example, but you get my point, right?
Right, absolutely. So bottom line is we need them, and we need several, right? We need more than one. And I was having a conversation with somebody earlier today, mentoring conversation. And I said to that person, I'm like, you know what? You can have someone that's a mentor on social media. you
Mhm.
know, and somebody that you don't have necessarily even have communication with, but it's somebody that you follow. What you said earlier about somebody who you deem to have right fruits. They're doing
Mhm.
things that, you know, you aspire to do, and you can just, you know, watch what they're doing. And that's a
Mhm.
form of mentorship. So mentorship, you know, it's different forms of mentorship. It can be
That's right.
formal, informal, you know, to where you have scheduled, you know, talks, or you can pick up the phone, like you said, and hey, I you know, want to talk about this thing. Or again, looking at somebody's life that you
Right.
aspire to be like, and glean from them.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. And then when they hold you accountable, don't run.
right,
That's the thing, right? Because you're going to hear that's the part of mentorship. You're going to hear something that may ruffle your feathers a little bit, but their job is to push you to where you said you want to go.
absolutely,
And so I'm not saying you have to agree with everything that they say, but guaranteed you're going to have a conversation that's not going to be comfortable, but
yeah,
it's going to be for your good.
right.
And so in the end, you'll be able to look back. And so that just comes with the territory. And I want to throw that out there too, because that's an important part of mentorship as well.
Yeah, because it goes back to what we said earlier, the work. You have to put in work, right? And
Yeah.
if what you've been doing up until this point worked, you wouldn't need a mentor.
Exactly.
So that part.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
So before we close, I do want to say that, you know, ways to contact Jay, her website will be in the notes. So I want you all to know that. Her new book is coming out, as she mentioned. Tell us the name of the book again, Jay.
It is called Ambitious Woman: How to Self-Promote in the Workplace Without Feeling Like You're Bragging. I'm so excited. I'm having a book launch party January 23rd.
Okay.
But that's for people that are in California Bay Area.
Ah,
So they'll see the information on
on your
the
site.
website.
Okay, perfect, wonderful. So yeah, so you'll all have access to, you know, being able to connect with Jay. So Jay, again, before we do wrap and say goodbye, what would you like to leave the audience with?
I want to leave the audience with this. It's very simple. Ladies, it is time to change your hat. Period.
All right, there it is. Whoop, whoop, there it is. Well, Jocquice J. Spikes, thank you so much for your time, your voice, and for making it simple for us, right? Making it easy. Habits, associations, and thoughts. Change it. So
Mhm.
thank you so much for,
Change your life.
yeah. Thank you so much for coming on an intimate conversation with women of color, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. You too. It was a
You're
pleasure.
welcome.
I really enjoyed myself.
Same here.